The greatness of Todd Howard, a 5'1" manlet who has more self-esteem issues than a 14-year-old anorexic Chinese girl constantly living in the shadow of Fallout New Vegas. Let's see what people have to say about him, because this is gonna be very sad.
If you're the guy in charge, you're a little bit you're alone, like it's you alone. You're the captain, and so everybody can be tight with the captain. They can be loyal to the captain. It's hard to really be friends with the captain because there's not because of
Yeah.
anything other than like he's authority, and his word has to go. And I think that one thing that I felt really good about in the years while I was there, and I only agreed with maybe 65% of the decisions he made in general. But I think that's a very high batting average for a leader. I mean, think about like presidential approval numbers, right? Like, like when you have to make when there's some guy at the top making all the decisions, like you're not going to agree with a lot of them.
No.
But I will say that I think at the time of Fallout and Skyrim and all that, I think there was a general feeling whether or not you were angry at Todd or annoyed at Todd or whatever. I don't think there was ever any feeling like anybody else should be in charge, and I think that's a huge deal. That's a huge deal, as I think that if I fundamentally knew that this was going to go well because Todd was in charge, and that's a feeling of profound security. So yeah, so he and I were great. We've always been great. And the last time I saw him was at my producer Angela's wedding, actually. And he
This is absolute ass kissing, but if you want a job at Bethesda, especially if you want a high level paying job at Bethesda, this is what you need to do. Because Todd Howard is all about the ego. Listen, okay? I'm so proud of you boys for spreading far and wide the word that Todd Howard has self-esteem issues. Because listen, when you're 5'1" and you're still wearing boots that give you this much of an extra height because you're just that self-conscious about yourself. When your whole MO for the past whatever long existence you have had on this pitiful planet is you need to put your name on everything that has ever been made. Otherwise, it's not gonna fly. It's pretty insane. It's pretty insane. Now, admittedly, holding a good position in a job like that is super easy because all you have to do is say, "Todd, I agree with you," and then I'll spread those ass cheeks and see what happens. Okay, work your tongue around. It doesn't seem that hard, especially someone so ego driven like Todd Howard. And this is going to be interesting. Now, this person is obviously a complete nobody. He is Johan Loeb, character artist on Skyrim, Fallout 3 and 4, aka literally a nobody. Hasn't done anything of note, and, well, artists in general are nothing of note, to be completely real with you. And it's very interesting because this is how rotten these companies happens. This is why Bethesda currently is the trash that it is, because this guy understands the need to suck up to Todd Howard, and he's doing it in a really good way. Because he effectively says this: 2 out of 3 times I'm gonna agree with Todd Howard, and one of those times he doesn't agree. He doesn't say he doesn't agree, but he's like, "Can we do more or do something like that?" Because I have said this many times. When you're working in a company like this, one thing that this man said is extremely true. There is no friendship. The moment you make a company and you're the CEO of it, you have no friends left. This is the same thing I have said about people like Asmongold, that he doesn't have any friends because all of his friends were streamers and now they work under him in OTK, so no more friends left. It is what it is. This is how these things work. It's never different. And yeah, maybe for a year, maybe 2, maybe even 3, maybe even 4 years, you can be friendly. But sooner or later, something will happen where the dynamic of, well, he may be my friend, but he's still my boss takes over. And there's nothing you can do about it. And anyone who says no to the boss too many times gets fucked, gets deleted, gets replaced. And this man very much knows it. So effectively, this person, all he does on a regular basis is just suck Todd Howard off. because otherwise he would probably get fired. Great stuff. Great stuff. If he's still the guy. And if he no longer works there, you obviously don't want to talk in a very public industry bad about your previous employer, because then maybe people won't employ you anymore. Because guess what? Todd Howard knows people. Other CEOs, in fact. Oh, this is a beautiful video. I could already tell.
You know, does the offer still stand? I don't know. I have no idea.
Knows? Yeah, yeah.
I haven't seen him in like 8 years or something like that. But yeah, no, he was great. And he was always complimentary and supportive of my work. And I only really got my, my nose, like,
supportive of your work as long as you are supportive of him. That's how these things work.
bopped by him like once in any kind of significant way, and I deserved it. So, like, yeah, he is, so I don't know, again, I don't know how things have gone now. I know the company's changed and it's gotten bigger and all these different things have happened. So I don't know. I can't speak to him now, but at the time I worked with him, I'll say this. When I got hired there, we had about like 54 people on the team. Small. It was very small. So I got to know him really, really well. Oh yeah, it was tiny. By the time I left, it was only like 110. So it was still tiny. And so I think I got to know Todd, not at the beginning necessarily by any stretch of the imagination, but it was still a small and intimate team where everyone knew each other. And so as the company's changed, I think his role within the company has changed. I think there's not probably that same sense of connectivity and everything. And yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if maybe he felt, a little sour about me leaving, because I think when you're the guy in charge and you're trying to run things as well as you can, and then you have someone like me kind of tell him like, I'm leaving, like, gotta go, especially after a hit like Skyrim, right? I mean, I gotta imagine you feeling like, if it was me, I'd be like a little bit bitter. I'd be like, why you leave, man? Like, we had a good thing going,
Yeah,
and we did have a good thing going. We really did. We had a beautiful thing going during the time I was there.
He would understand that, surely. I mean, you would have told him the reasons as to
Bro's also kind of sucking his own schlong here also. Jesus.
why you're going.
Of course.
So there'd probably be a part of him that's bitter, but then probably another part that would understand. Yeah.
Absolutely. No. I mean, when I told him I was leaving and taking a year off and writing a fantasy novel and all that, he was like, dude, I want to do that. And I looked at him. I said, I know, man, but you can't. Like, you're actually stuck here. Like, you actually cannot leave at all. And so I think that I think he really understood where I was coming from. I think he really did. But it's like, again, like, he's stuck there. So, why wouldn't he feel like, well, if I'm stuck here, like, we should be here together. I think he works really hard to build a team. I think over the years, it's hard to build a team and have people constantly leaking away at the edges. And, after a while, you start to feel, listen, I'm completely guessing as to his psychology, but again, I think it's lonely at the top,
Yeah.
That's why you have other CEO friends, and that's why, well, you had Epstein's Island, but there's probably a new one out there anyway. It was just waiting for its time to shine. So, Todd Howard's probably not pissed at all.
It is. Did you have like a newfound appreciation for him once you went off and you worked on Fireborn? Was it Fireborn?
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't Fireborn a complete disaster, or what? Or am I thinking of something else? Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fireborn, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, no, his ability to say no was one I wish I had embraced much earlier in the years afterwards. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think building games like Skyrim, they seem limitless, and Fallout, they seem limitless. They seem huge. They seem impossibly huge. But actually, like, to do that, to pull that off, the guy at the top really has to say no to a lot of ideas.
This is actually a good subject to talk about. A lot of people fail as leaders because of one simple thing: they can't say no. They will not fire people because they have worked there a long time and shit like that. That doesn't make you successful. That's not how it works, okay? If something doesn't work out, get rid of it. If something doesn't work out, you can try to change it. If people are offering you bad ideas, you say no. A lot of people fail as leaders specifically because of that. because they themselves have honestly bought too much into the complete crap idea of, oh, your job is your family, blah blah blah, and all of that nonsense. Being a leader is saying no a lot. That's really hard for a lot of people. But at some point, you start saying no, and it's effectively as, trying to ask a girl out for the first or 277 billionth time. It's always gonna sting a little bit when she says no, and it's always gonna be a little bit of a stressful thing to actually muster up the strength and ask it. But you have to do it. Now, the good thing with being a boss, yeah, saying no is complicated a couple of first times, but so is being a heroin addict. You know, most people don't become, for example, addicts of that sort because most people are actually afraid to stick the needle in themselves. That's the thing that prevents people from doing it in a lot of cases, in the majority of cases, in fact. But saying no becomes easier over time. You say no once, you say no twice, and there you go. Now you're capable of saying no.
To the point where it was frustrating and annoying. And there's projects I worked on after hours just to get them in the game. And by and large, they got in the game, which was great. But it was very clear to me that I could not work on whatever I kind of dreamed up at that time at work all the time, because we had a game to get through and we had the fundamentals to hit. And so, yeah, certainly. I think he had a very strong sense of what the games we were working on were and what they had to be and what they weren't and what they didn't have to be. And he would very quickly say no to anything that didn't fit within that paradigm.
I unironically think this is actually right. Todd Howard is just an extremely lucky idiot, in my honest opinion, because if everyone lost the memory of what Skyrim is and it would come out in this day and age, it would be way less popular. It would be ridiculously way less popular. It would not be probably even 1/10 as successful as it is now. Because Skyrim was a great thing 20 years ago. And Todd Howard, for that time period, kind of actually accidentally, I believe, made the good thing. With the decisions, with a lot of Fallout things. 3 is arguably worse than 4. And, the weakest of the modern day Fallout franchise, obviously. But still, it's not a bad game. It's playable. It's just the weakest of the Fallout series. Still a very, very powerful game and very good game by most definitions and by most criteria. And same with Skyrim. Pretty good game. But that was back then. Nowadays, Todd Howard has no idea what's happening. No idea what people want. No idea what people like. The greatest example of this is obviously Starfield. The fact that he literally just tried to remake Skyrim in space, and here's the result. No one fucking plays it. We literally have an expansion for that game that, by my estimates, has only been tried by a maximum of 6% of the base population of the game, which is insane! That is one of the lowest buy rates for any product ever, and Shattered Space was given to free if you bought the original game effectively for most people with the edition, which is even more insane, okay? And I think Todd Howard has never moved past this. I think Todd Howard accidentally made something that was extremely good for its time, but his vision completely just stops and evaporates after that point. And I mean, I think it's kind of visible. We have Starfield, we have Indiana Jones, we have Redfall, and people are going to say, oh, Redfall was done by others. We know from interviews where it was literally told to us that Bethesda had all oversight over all decisions made on Redfall. So, even though Redfall was technically made by another studio than Bethesda had absolute full oversight over every decision that was made on that game. And all of those games, even though they're technically all completely different genres, they're the same. Have you seen all of these 3 games? Redfall, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, and Starfield? And, I don't know, Skyrim or Fallout? These are all exactly the same game. They play exactly the same, they have different kind of elements to them, but they all feel exactly the same. Exactly the same somehow. And yeah, I think that's what Todd Howard is, a relic of the past who literally is incapable of moving past Skyrim to a certain degree. Pathetic, really.
And and that by definition, that's very limiting. But he had a great quote that we went over a lot, which is, we can do everything. I'm sorry, we can do anything, but we can't do everything. And so the idea is, it's a game. We can make the game do whatever we want, but it can only do a certain number of things. And so that has stuck with me, I think. Yeah, that focus on the core experience has stuck with me.
I mean, there's some concern, I suppose, when the day comes when he hangs up the gloves, so to speak.
Oh no, that would be the best day ever. Todd Howard leaving Bethesda is like honestly, most Bethesda fans are literally hoping it happens, because that will be significant change. Again, Todd Howard is involved in every decision about every game made. So, again, we're never gonna get anything but Skyrim, but downgraded and a little bit of Vogue sprinkled in it, as long as Todd Howard still stays at Bethesda. Bethesda's biggest thing that can happen is Todd Howard just leaves and never comes back. That will be amazing. That will get people so excited for Bethesda, because, again, Todd Howard currently is the guy who's calling all the shots. Maybe Bethesda actually can do something without Todd Howard. Now, personally, I think that's not going to happen. I have talked about this multiple times. Bethesda doesn't have anything even remotely close to talent at this point. All of them are prehistoric idiots, losers, morons who are working at Bethesda. Even if Todd Howard makes all the wrong choices, you still can't get something as poor quality as goddamn fucking Starfield. Unless everyone working at your studio is a complete talentless hack. Same with Indiana Jones, same with everything else that Bethesda does.
Speak. Like, who will be able to take the mantle from him,
I agree. I mean, I think at a certain point, I'm a big fan of changing up your career, as is evidenced by my ever-changing career. And so I think when the day comes for him to hang up his gloves, it'll be a good day. Not because he doesn't still have it or whatever, but I think that going from one game to the next is exhausting. And if you have to helm that game and see it through every single step of the way, that's exhausting. So on the one hand, I'm like, dude, this dude was born to do this. On the other hand, I'm like, I don't know, he's like 50 something at this point, and like he's been doing this hardcore now for like what, 25 years, like being not just working games, but being at the helm of them, it's just and I think the day he hangs up his gloves, there's going to be a lot of stumbling and staggering by whoever reassumes that responsibility, for sure.
I mean, we got along. Yeah. So, like, some people would be, I suppose, scared of him because they're like, oh, that's Todd Howard. But, I was there when we were like 60 people or whatever, so I always talked to him.
This guy seems short. Todd Howard would like him. I also have a prevailing theory that Todd Howard only promotes people who are short and gives them more chances and opportunities, because again, he is so desperately paranoid about his height, as he should be. Again, the guy's literally a midget. He is shorter than your average woman, and the average woman is barely dick-sucking size, which is insane, okay?
Fairly regularly, so to me I was just like, yeah, just go talk to Todd, he's fine.
Was that still possible by the time you got to Starfield though? Or had it
it definitely got a lot harder because he was a lot busier and like, needed to
The
fly out to all these other
Microsoft
studios
thing.
and stuff. But I suppose at the level that I was, I'd probably talk to him more than, you're some new person who got there after everything got big.
So does Todd get quite passionate about UI?
Yeah. Like, plenty of people could go there.
There's no fucking way that is true. Starfield's UI was the worst thing that happened to Starfield. Jesus Christ, okay? Fallout's UI was not perfect, but at least it worked. Starfield's UI was just a downgrade on all goddamn levels.
Their entire career there and maybe not even talk to him, possibly, especially now. But when you're talking about UI, like, he literally cares about the kerning of fonts. Like, that
Really?
is 100%
The
not an
level of the
exaggeration.
detail. Wow.
Yes. So I was like, okay, have at it.
He wants to be able to have his hands in everything, but that's not humanly possible. So you end up with a situation where some things get very lightly touched, and then the things he cares mostly about, he does a deep dive into. As
Bro, this guy worked on 76 and Starfield. Oof, man. He should not get a job ever again.
talented as he is, it's a mistake to think that any studio director is personally doing all the work on any project.
Of course.
That's just not realistic.
I have said this before. I think we get the point. This guy's a little bit different of opinion, which is nice, though.
They're fortunate if they can have the time to even look at something a little bit and pass some judgment on it instead of Esmo.
He means in detail. Yeah, he actually means like in game and things like that.
Majority of them do what Todd did, which is pick and choose the things he cares most about, and then trust the rest of his staff to carry through on other things. And
and that's how you get pronouns in Starfield.
Deal with a really light touch on those other principles or work efforts, and let his directors and his managers and his talented staff try and create the best product they can. And when I first joined the company in 2004, as you pointed out, the only project going on really was Oblivion. I mean, the whole concept of DLC didn't even exist. Bethesda was one of the first.
True. Well, they introduced horse armor, 10 out of 10. Anyway, Todd Howard. Sad. Very sad. Anyway, that was Kiwi Talks, 10 out of 10. Have a nice day. Bye.